The rain was pouring. A wealthy man lay trapped inside a wrecked car, barely conscious. But help didn't come from a passing car or a police siren. Instead, two homeless sisters, cold, soaked, and forgotten by the world, ran toward the bime. Danger. What happened next would change all of their lives forever. Was it fate or something more? If you're new to the channel, please subscribe, like the video, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Now, let's jump into the story. The rain was relentless, falling in thick sheets that blurred everything ahead. Streetlights glowed dimly through the downpour, casting pale reflections on the slick pavement. Inside a dark gray car, Nathan Greaves gripped the steering wheel, his jaw tight with frustration. He was late again. A business meeting had been pushed back, and now he was racing through the back streets of the city trying to beat the clock. The rain drummed against his windshield, like a warning. The wipers swiped rhythmically, but the road stayed slippery and dark. As he turned onto a narrow curve, his tires suddenly lost grip. The car skidded. Nathan's eyes widened as he slammed the brakes, but it was too late. The vehicle spun, jumped the curb, and crashed into a tall street lamp. Metal crunched and the hood crumpled like paper. The airbag exploded against his chest with a force that knocked the breath from his lungs. For a few seconds, everything was silent except for the hiss of steam rising from the bent hood and the steady patter of rain. The world outside was a blur of rain and shadows. Across the street, hidden behind a broken fence and piles of old boxes, Leah crouched in the corner of a narrow alleyway. Her long brown coat was worn thin, barely enough to keep her warm. Beside her little sister Callie curled up under a torn blanket, hugging her knees. A loud crash made both girls flinch. Leah's head snapped toward the sound. It came from just beyond the alley. Broken glass, a smashed car. Without a word, she stood. "Stay here," she whispered quickly to Callie. Callie's eyes widened. "Leah, no. It could be dangerous." "Someone might be hurt," Leah said firmly. "I'll be right back." Before Callie could stop her, Leah dashed through the rain, water soaking her sneakers within seconds. She followed the flicker of headlights until she reached the wrecked car. It was tilted to one side, steam rising from the engine. The passenger side was crushed, but the driver's side window was shattered. She peered inside. A man was slumped over the steering wheel, not moving. His head rested awkwardly to one side, and his face was smeared with blood from a cut near his brow. Leah tapped on the glass, then knocked harder. "Hey, can you hear me?" The man groaned faintly, but didn't speak. Leah grabbed the door handle and tugged. Nothing. It was jammed. "Hang on," she muttered. She looked around quickly. On the side of the road, she spotted a loose brick. Picking it up, she smashed the rest of the glass away from the window. Rain poured in, splashing over the dashboard. The man flinched, his eyes fluttering open. "You're hurt," Leah said. "I'm going to help you out." Behind her, soft footsteps splashed through the puddles. Callie had followed. "Leah," she whispered, afraid. Leah turned, surprised but not angry. "Help me. We need to pull him out." Callie, still shaking, reached in through the broken window. The man, weak and confused, tried to move but couldn't. Leah unbuckled his seatbelt and carefully pulled his arm over her shoulder. Together, the two girls struggled to get him out of the car. He groaned again as they helped him to his feet. He was tall, heavy, and clearly in pain. His expensive coat was soaked and stained, but he was alive. Leah supported most of his weight, guiding him with one arm around her shoulders. Callie held his wrist, keeping him steady. Slowly, they led him down the street, searching for somewhere safe. After several blocks, they reached a small shabby clinic tucked between two closed stores. A red neon sign blinked faintly in the window. Inside, the air smelled like disinfectant and damp coats. The nurse at the front desk jumped up when she saw them. "What happened?" she asked, rushing over. "Car crash," Leah said. "He needs help." "You two, are you okay?" "We're fine," Leah answered. "Just take care of him." The nurse nodded and quickly called in a doctor. Soon the man was taken to the back on a stretcher. Leah and Callie sat on a bench near the door. Their clothes were soaked through and their hair clung to their faces. The room was quiet except for the buzz of an old vending machine. Callie leaned against Leah's shoulder. "Do you think he's mad?" she whispered. Leah shook her head. "He'd be mad if we left him there." They sat in silence for a while, watching the clinic door. Leah couldn't explain it, but something in her chest felt strange. Not fear, not pride. Something else. As the rain finally began to lighten outside, the nurse returned. "He's stable," she said softly. "He asked about the girls who helped him." Callie looked up. "What did you say?" "I told him you were here." Leah's gaze stayed on the door. Something told her that tonight wasn't just a rescue. It was the beginning of something bigger. Soft light filtered through the curtains as Nathan slowly opened his eyes. The beeping of machines and the faint scent of antiseptic told him he was in a hospital. His body ached all over, especially his ribs and shoulder. His thoughts were slow and scattered. He blinked a few times, trying to make sense of his surroundings. Flashes of memory came back in pieces. The rain, the curve in the road, the crash, and then 2 voices. Young voices. He remembered hands pulling him out. A girl's determined face, another smaller figure beside her. Were they real or part of a dream? A nurse entered the room, her shoes making soft taps against the floor. "You're awake," she said kindly. "How are you feeling?" "Sore," Nathan replied, his voice rough. "What happened to the girls?" The nurse paused. "So you remember them?" "Yes, they brought you in. 2 sisters. They found you after the crash and helped you get here." Nathan's brow furrowed. "Who are they?" "We don't know," the nurse said. "They didn't give their names. Just made sure you were safe, then waited here a while. They sat outside your room all night before they left." Nathan looked toward the window. The idea that 2 children had risked their safety for him filled his chest with something unfamiliar. Gratitude mixed with guilt. He had lived a life surrounded by contracts, silence, and well-dressed strangers who smiled only when it was convenient. And yet, it was 2 girls with nothing who had shown him real kindness. A few days later, once his injuries were stable, Nathan left the hospital. He had one goal in mind: find the girls. He remembered their faces vaguely, but enough to give the IC hospital staff a description. One nurse remembered the name Callie whispered by the younger one. That small clue, along with the direction they had walked when they left, helped him narrow down the area. He spent the next day checking shelters and asking quiet questions. It wasn't easy. Many people didn't trust a man in a fine coat asking about children. But on the 3rd day, a woman outside a small church nodded. "They sleep near the old bus station sometimes," she said. "The older one is tough, but she's just a kid. Tries to protect the little one." Nathan followed the lead. That night, under a crumbling awning near the back of the bus station, he found them. Leah was sitting on a blanket, repairing the strap of a worn backpack. Callie sat beside her, doodling on the back of a flyer with a half-used pencil. When Nathan approached, Leah stood immediately, placing herself in front of Callie. "We don't want trouble," she said sharply. Nathan raised his hands. "I'm not here to cause any. I just wanted to thank you. You helped me when no one else would." Leah's eyes narrowed. "You found us just to say thanks?" "And to offer you a warm meal," he said. "And maybe a safe place to rest for a while." Callie peeked from behind her sister. "We don't have to stay, right?" Nathan shook his head gently. "No, just dinner. Nothing more unless you want it." Leah looked him over, searching for signs of a lie. She saw something in his expression, something honest and unsure. "Fine," she said. "Just dinner." They walked quietly through the streets. When they reached Nathan's apartment, both girls stopped and stared. It was tall, modern, and surrounded by glowing lights. To them, it looked like something from a storybook. Inside, the warmth hit them first. Soft rugs, wide windows, and shelves filled with books and quiet furniture greeted them. Leah stayed close to Callie, still watching every corner like a hawk. Nathan served warm food, nothing fancy, just stew and bread. But to the girls, It tasted like comfort. Callie ate eagerly. Leah took her time, always glancing up at Nathan, between bites. After dinner, Nathan showed them the guest room. It was simple but cozy with clean sheets and a small window that looked out over the street. "You can stay here tonight if you want," he said. Callie's eyes lit up. Leah hesitated. "Why are you doing this?" she asked quietly. Nathan sat on the edge of the sofa and took a breath. "I spent most of my life chasing things that didn't matter," he said. "Money, titles, more meetings than I can count. I thought I had everything, but I didn't know what it meant to really care. When you helped me, it made me realize I don't want to be the kind of man who just forgets that." Leah didn't answer right away. Instead, she led Callie into the guest room. They whispered for a long time before the door gently closed. Nathan sat alone in the living room, staring out the window. For the first time in years, the silence around him didn't feel empty. It felt like the beginning of something better. Morning sunlight poured gently through the guest room window. Leah woke first, sitting up slowly, her muscles still stiff from months of sleeping on the ground. Beside her, Callie was curled under the soft blanket, breathing steadily. For a moment, Leah just watched her. It had been a long time since Callie looked that peaceful. She rose quietly and stepped into the hallway. The apartment was still and silent. Nathan was nowhere in sight, but the smell of toast and eggs drifted from the kitchen. On the counter sat a note in neat handwriting. "Breakfast is on the table. Take your time. I'll be back in an hour." "Nathan?" Leah hesitated. Part of her expected a trick, some catch. But when she lifted the lid on the dish, it was just food. Warm, fresh, and waiting. Callie appeared soon after, rubbing her eyes. "Is this really ours?" she asked. "Just for breakfast," Leah said. "We'll figure out the rest later." After they ate, they spent the day in quiet exploration. The apartment had tall bookshelves, soft couches, and windows that showed the city below. It was unlike anywhere they had ever been. Still, Leah kept her guard up. When Nathan returned, he brought with him a surprise: new clothes in their sizes and a small sketch pad for Callie. "I saw how you were drawing on that flyer," he said with a smile. "Thought you might like this." Callie beamed. "Thank you." Leah said nothing, but she held the clean hoodie he gave her with both hands for a long time before slipping it over her shoulders. As the days passed, small routines began to form. Breakfast in the morning, quiet evenings with books or TV, and sometimes shared meals where laughter came slowly but naturally. Callie opened up quickly, always asking questions, always curious. Leah was slower, watching everything with careful eyes. Nathan, for his part, made no demands. He never asked them to explain their past or forced them to stay, but he made space for them and they noticed. One rainy afternoon, as they all sat in the living room watching the storm outside, Callie asked, "Do you know how to fix the coffee machine?" Nathan chuckled. "Not a clue. Why?" "It keeps blinking red." Leah stood and walked over. She examined the machine, pushed a few buttons, and then opened the back panel with a butter knife. After a few moments, the blinking stopped, and it whirred to life. "How did you do that?" Nathan asked, impressed. Leah shrugged. "Used to fix old stuff at a shelter, kept the lights on." That was the first time Nathan saw her smile, just a little. Later that week, a guest arrived, Nathan's business partner, Jasper Lane. Jasper wore a sleek suit and carried a shiny black briefcase. His smile was wide but didn't reach his eyes. "You've been hard to reach," Jasper said as he walked into the apartment. "This the reason why." He glanced at Leah and Callie, who were sitting quietly on the couch. Nathan kept his voice steady. "They're staying with me for a while." Jasper raised an eyebrow. "You're housing street kids now?" "They have names," Nathan replied. "This is Leah. That's Callie." Jasper's tone turned sharp. "This isn't good for your image. People will talk. Clients might get nervous." "Let them," Nathan said. "These girls saved my life. They didn't hesitate. The least I can do is give them safety." Jasper scoffed. You're throwing away your future for some charity project. They're not charity, Nathan said firmly. They're people, and I'm not throwing anything away. Maybe I'm just finally choosing the right path. Jasper left soon after, his briefcase clicking shut with finality. The air in the apartment felt heavy after that. Leah sat quietly, arms crossed. You don't have to defend us, she said. I'm not defending, Nathan answered. I'm just being honest. A few days later, things began to shift again. Nathan started cutting back on meetings. He worked from home more, spent time helping Callie with reading, and let Leah choose movies in the evening. Leah, in return, began helping in the kitchen. She fixed the leaky faucet in the bathroom and showed Callie how to sew up a tear in her sweater. But even as comfort grew, memories lingered. One night, Leah sat alone on the balcony. The city lights below reminded her of the nights she and Callie used to spend looking for a safe corner to sleep. Nathan joined her, 2 mugs of tea in hand. He handed one to her. You don't say much about your past, he said softly. Not much to say, Leah replied. We had parents once, then we didn't. Some shelters, some bad places. We ran. I kept us going. Nathan nodded slowly. That's a lot to carry. Someone had to, Leah said. They sat in silence for a while. I'm not trying to replace anything, Nathan said gently. I just want you both to know this place is yours for as long as you need it. Leah looked at him for a moment. Then she gave a small nod. Inside, Callie was asleep, her sketch pad filled with pictures of flowers, houses, and stars. Her drawings no longer showed alleyways or broken windows. Outside, the rain had stopped. The clouds were parting, and the city below shimmered under the streetlights. Something was changing. Not fast, not loud, but slowly, in quiet ways that felt real. Weeks passed, and the apartment that once felt too quiet slowly filled with the soft sounds of life. Mornings began with Callie's gentle humming as she drew in her sketchbook, and evenings ended with the quiet murmur of movies, the clinking of dishes, and the low hum of conversation. Leah still kept her guard up, but something inside her had shifted. She no longer stood by the door as if ready to leave. She moved with more ease, spoke a little more freely, and let herself laugh when Callie said something silly. Nathan noticed these small changes and never rushed them. He just made space, always patient, always present. One afternoon, a knock came at the door. It was a woman with kind eyes and a clipboard in her hands. I'm Ruth Calder, she said. I'm with Family and Youth Services. May I come in? Nathan welcomed her in, though a sense of worry filled the room. Leah stood behind Callie, arms folded. Someone called, Ruth explained. Concerned that 2 minors might be living here without guardianship. It's standard procedure to follow up. Nathan nodded. I've been working with a lawyer. I've started the guardianship process, Ruth smiled gently. That's good to hear. May I speak with the girls? Leah hesitated, but Nathan gave her a quiet look of reassurance. Ruth sat down with them, her voice soft and respectful. She asked about how they were feeling, if they felt safe, and what their days were like. Callie told her about the book she was reading. Leah spoke about helping around the house and her hope to maybe finish school someday. After the visit, Ruth looked at Nathan with warm approval. They seem happy here, she said. Safe. That means everything. As the door closed behind her, Leah asked, So we get to stay? Nathan gave a small smile. As long as you want to. That evening, they ate dinner outside on the balcony. Fairy lights strung along the railing glowed softly in the twilight. Callie showed off her newest drawing, a treehouse in the clouds. I want to build one like this one day, she said proudly. I bet you will, Nathan replied. The next day brought unexpected news. Jasper Lane, Nathan's old business partner, had been arrested. His company had been hiding major financial fraud. News of the scandal spread quickly, filling headlines and screens. Many in the industry were shocked, but Nathan wasn't. He had cut ties with Jasper weeks earlier, sensing something was wrong. And now, as he stood with Leah and Callie watching the news report, he felt something deeper. Relief. Not just for the justice served, but for the fact that he had finally stepped away from a world that never truly mattered. Later that week, Nathan received a call. The guardianship process was complete. He waited until dinner to share the news. They were eating in the living room, plates on their laps, laughter filling the air after Callie told a funny story about a squirrel outside the window. Nathan cleared his throat. "I have something to tell you." Leah and Callie turned to him. "It's official," he said softly. "You're part of my family now." Callie dropped her fork. "Really?" Nathan nodded. "Really?" Callie threw her arms around him. "I knew you meant it." Leah didn't move right away. She looked down at her plate, then slowly met his eyes. "Why?" she asked. "You didn't have to." "I wanted to," he said. "Not out of guilt. Not because of what you did. Because of who you are. Both of you." Leah stood, walked over, and hugged him too. Quietly, tightly. From that night on, things felt different. Not perfect, not easy, but real. They had arguments over chores. Leah still got quiet when things got too emotional. Callie spilled juice on the couch and cried about it for 10 minutes, but they were together. They were learning. Nathan invited a friend from his past to visit, a man named Ellis. He had been Nathan's college roommate, now a youth mentor in the city. "I'd like to help," Ellis said when he met the girls. "Not as a stranger, just someone who cares." Leah watched him carefully, but eventually she opened up. Ellis taught her how to repair small electronics, and she began volunteering with him at a neighborhood tech club. Callie flourished too. She joined a weekend art program and won second place in a local contest. Her drawing of a quiet garden filled with birds and light now hung framed in the hallway. Months passed, and the apartment grew into a real home. There were photos on the walls, shoes at the door, books stacked in corners, laughter in the kitchen. Nathan's once orderly life had become messy in the most beautiful way. One crisp autumn evening, they sat on the rooftop together, wrapped in blankets. Callie pointed at the stars. "Do you think Mom and Dad can see us now?" Leah didn't answer, right away. Then she said, "Maybe. I think they'd be proud." Nathan looked at them both. "I know I am." And in that quiet moment, under a sky full of stars, they weren't just three people brought together by chance. They were a family, one built not by blood but by trust, kindness, and the choice to care.